What's up, fellow gamers? Phreak here, and Legends of Runeterra patch 1.6 is in, and so let's talk about what's changing in this patch. And I'll be mostly gameplay focused, but there's a few things that are going on that aren't gameplay that I think is interesting as well. So it's the Spirit Blossom event, which is across all of the Runeterra properties. So it's in League of Legends, it's in TFT, it's in LOR, and I'm a fan of this. It's super cool. I mean, it's the first time this is happening. As it turns out, Riot has made games in every genre that I enjoy playing. They're only missing single-player RPGs, and they've hit everything I want to play ever. So hopefully Riot will make one of those, and I can just play Riot games for the rest of my life. Otherwise, though, cool to see. I'll play all of them. I will probably buy all 3 battle passes. I bought the Valorant one when that came out as well. I'm glad that Riot makes games that I like. It's a lot of why I'm here, obviously, and it turns out I actually really freaking love battle passes. Again, to the point of Riot makes games that I enjoy. Well, I only play the Riot games in the genres, really, which means I don't play other games that have battle passes because I don't play those games. So it's my first time getting to interact with battle passes a lot, and I really enjoy them. So dream come true for me as a gamer. Good time to be in quarantine, nothing else to do but play video games. So all things considered, life's good. Let's talk about the patch, though. I've been rambling on for a minute and a half for no reason. So dev notes and balance for 1.6. Basically, they're saying, hey, they want a really healthy amount of decks to be viable. They're saying that a lot of the decks that and cards that are getting nerfed are not technically OP win rate wise, but there's so many matchups that can't win against them that it's crowding out deck viability. That like the meta has already shrunk itself to just the viable decks, and they want that to be opened back up. So they're saying, hey, if we nerf these top deck archetypes, then the tier 2 and tier 3 decks have a good enough win rate that they're worth actually playing, and that's cool beans. So, sounds good, great, yep. I'm always a fan of, like, League of Legends does this where they basically have essentially like mathematical targets. They're like, okay, look, we're gonna try to keep buffs and nerfs in equal amounts, which is a good thing. That's not a hard and fast rule, but it's something they try to do. And in as far as nerfs are concerned, they're like, hey, we are going to basically, anything that breaks this win rate threshold, we are going to hit. And then over time, they're like, okay, look, we're not giving nerfs to players in mid elo enough. Let's actually constrain that mechanic a bit more so that we can catch more champions in our like mandatory nerf threshold, which I think is cool. Like, I actually like that a lot, because it keeps you kind of honest and just says, okay, look, you can just like look patch over patch. How many things are we hitting? How many are we not hitting? Okay, let's tighten some bands that we can give balance changes that matter to gold players and silver players and whatnot. So I like that. Apparently, by them saying this, by the way, is that there aren't any cards that are so absurdly above win rate threshold that need to be nerfed, because they're nerfing things that just are pretty good, but apparently aren't over the line. So, okay. But again, every time there's a balance patch, I want to see changes, right? So, as a player, I love seeing balance changes. I think it's just very fun and exciting. Cool to see this. Let's move on to the actual changes themselves. Spirit Blossom Festival exists. There is a lab for Bestow. There are a bunch of quests and stuff. There's an event pass. All cool stuff. Coming August 5th, there's 2 more epic quests and new Spirit Blossom items in the store. But before then, bam. This stuff looks really cool. Looks really exciting. I'm going to play with this. I'm going to engage with it. Sounds great. Labs have been a really fun way for me to play PvP without having to try. Not without having to try. I have found that my engagement with LOR, as it tends to work with card games in general, auto battles like Teamfight Tactics are kind of the same way, is like there's a surge of activity when there's new stuff. And then once you've engaged with the new stuff, you are then engaging with it. There's less exploration, right? And exploring new decks takes a lot of time and effort that sometimes you maybe don't have. And so what I mean by that is like, okay, when, Bilgewater comes out, bam, here we are, it's Bilgewater. You're like, oh, wow, okay, let's use Scouts, let's use MF, let's go play Deep. And I'm just like, I'm going to jam Expeditions, and I'm going to play free Expeditions when I'm doing the paid ones, and like, I want to play with a bunch of new cards. And then once I've built out my collection of cards, it's like, okay, well, I've kind of done the things I wanted to do. I've like experienced a lot of the new stuff. Now, unless I want to fine tune and climb, I no longer have like a repeatable experience, or I don't have a growth experience, right? Like I'm not learning new things about the game. I'm only just trying to get better at the game or trying to climb at the game. And so I really enjoyed labs. I really enjoyed the ARAM lab because it allowed me to say, look, I want to experience something new, but I don't want to spend the time deck building and hoping that it doesn't suck, because odds are it's going to suck. And I don't necessarily want to spend the 10 minutes to draft the deck and then, and then I can't even experience something new. I need to draft for winning because I'm buying into edition. Lab's a really great way to be like, I want to experience something new. There's no pressure. I'm still getting all the quest rewards that I would get normally. In fact, a lot of the quests are played labs, which is like, great, there's quest rewards. And so I'm getting card progression, which is fun in and of itself because I don't have every card in the game, while getting to play the game with low overhead, which is awesome. So I love that labs do not let you make a deck. Like, to me as a player, that is core to the experience of I load up LOR, click labs, click play, and I'm in. And I am not weaker than my opponents. It didn't require much more time. And I'm going to have fun. And it's going to be a new experience. Like, those are things that are core to me as pillars for labs, and I'm so happy that they're there. Because ultimately, like, as I said, I like all of the Riot games. There are 4 games that I want to play at all times, and I have to mix and match. And that means I, only spend so much time on LOR because I only spend so much time on Valorant, only so much time on LOL, etc. But I will almost certainly get this Battle Pass, and I will try to keep up with it and get all the cool stuff, because the Battle Pass looks pretty good. Okay, finally on to the card changes. I know it's 6 minutes in. Don't worry, there are timestamps underneath that you already know about this because you're watching the video. Hybrid Digger's finally getting nerfed, and to be fair, it is the nerf that the community thought was going to happen, right? It's get elusive turrets off of 3, which, yeah, honestly, it makes sense. The guy was spamming out 3-1 elusives, which is already a good stat line for elusives, and they cost 0 mana to produce. That was pretty absurd. I will say, though, so the 3-1s are now fearsomes, right? Which is I think actually really cool and really kind of cute, really kind of clever, because what happens now is the 3-drop turret is still still has a mechanic that dodges blockers, right? If you're not elusive, you can't block the floor begons. If you don't have 3 power, you can't block the fearsome turrets. And unless you're a 3/4 or bigger, you actually die to the fearsome turret, right? Like if you're playing Puffcat Peddler, that dies. If you're playing Fiora, that dies. If you're playing Lucian, that dies. If you're playing Senna, that dies. If you're playing, what's it called? It's not Bright Steel Formation. Bannerman. If you're playing Bannerman, that dies. There's a lot, right? Like there's a bunch of things that have 3 attack, but a lot of them don't have 4 health. It's like you got Badger Bear, and that's kind of it. Otherwise, you're into 4/4s. Oh, and by the way, 4/3s also die, right? If you're playing Chump Wump, that dies. So this is a big nerf, but I think the nerf is bigger on paper than it looks because you're still going to have pretty good situations here. It's still going to work out pretty well. The 3/1 fearsome ends up lining up pretty nicely. If it was going to die to Static Shock, so are the elusive ones, right? So not absurd. What's really fun is I think the 4 mana one is stronger. I personally believe 4 attack Overwhelm is better than 4 attack Fearsome. Actually, I think we all think that's true. Because anything that's going to block this and kill it, like a 1/1, it's still going to take 3 to face. Like, making a Stormlobber and trading with an Omen Hawk is the same damage as a Florbegon hitting face. Now, the Florbegon stays alive. That's obviously relevant, but like 4 attack Overwhelm is enough where you're probably hitting nexts off that. That's probably going face. And so you've got a really, like, this is a decent 3, and this is a decent 4. These are both okay cards. They're not Florbegon. Florbegon is absurd, obviously. But like, these are actually pretty solid. I don't think they bricked Hybrid Digger. Now, maybe he's a little bit too weak and he should become like a 2/3 or something, or a 2/4. Like, I wouldn't mind them slightly buffing the Heimer body, just like he survives and makes turrets a bit more. Because as long as the turrets aren't abusive, as long as it's not stupid and horrible and terrible, like Karma only overpays like 2 mana for her stats. Heimer overpays 4 mana for his stats, right? It's worth it. His effect is better, arguably, than Karma's. It's in some cases better, some cases worse, but generally, I would say it's generally better. I wouldn't mind Heimer not having to overpay as many for his stats so that he can sometimes be a better body. That's okay with me. That's an easy buff. It's like a pretty low risk buff as well. But I think these turrets are actually well positioned. And then, of course, we have the 6 Florbegon. So, yeah, this lines up pretty well. Other thing worth pointing out, by the way, is we'll get to it when it's there. Nerfing Braum. Yeah, so they buffed Braum, they nerfed him. So what's interesting is they've now gone and made Braum compared to the old Braum, which is unplayable, and the 1.5 Braum, which was too good, they have basically added 1 mana cost, but given a free Mighty Poro to Braum, unless you can deal 5 at once. Sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, so they said that they erred on the side of making sure it was enough. That was definitely an upgrade. But yeah, it was too strong. Yeah, there are very sharp matchups where he just started destroying 2-1s and 3-1s. I totally get it. Yeah, Braum going back to 0 power at level 1 is fine. Going to 1 power at level, I mean, they probably could have let him gain +2/+1. Nah. I like consistency. Gaining +1/+1 and level up and being a 1/6 is fine. I think it's okay. Ultimately, getting a free Mighty Poro is worth the 1 mana cost though, because it means that you can't kill him with Mystic Shot. You have to kill him with a combat buff, or it's worth it, right? Like, let's say, Braum challenges a 3/3 and you Mystic Shot him, and so Braum dies. It's like, well, okay, I lost a 4-drop, you lost a 2-drop in Mystic Shot, and I got a free Mighty Poro. So I'm not only up a card, I'm up mana, right? Like, I literally have a 3-drop here for the cost of a 2 mana difference, and the cost of you losing a card. Like, this is still good, right? The expected value of Braum in the vast majority of matchups that don't immediately give power buffs to their teammates, you're good there. So yes, an Omen Hawk with the Freljord +4/+4, yeah, that'll get you. But you traded a 4 for a 4. It's fine, right? Like, if a combat trick just becomes a 1-for-1, you did a good job getting that combat trick out of their hands. Even if Braum trades with Twin Disciplines, like, that's not even that bad either. Braum still feels like he's going to be pretty powerful, which I'm happy about. Getting that first free Poro is a really big deal. Level 2 Braum, yeah, slightly weaker because he doesn't have 2 power, but yeah, we're fine there. Anivia got buffed to be 6 cost, and that was enough to say, yeah, you know what? She feels too strong now. The egg only has 1 health. Niv and Freljord in a better spot since the 1.4 changes, but yeah, they say, okay, long-term gameplay health with the lower cost, copy Anivia strategies were easy to pull off. That's fair, right? Doing the really abusive Anivia stuff actually got online pretty quickly, because that was the part I wasn't really anticipating when I did the last patch run-in about this, was I was like, well, but level 1 Anivia is still bad, but 3 level 1 Anivias are really good. And like, all you're trying to do is get Dawn and Dusk online as fast as possible, or get Rekindler online as fast as possible. In this case, you could play Anivia on 6 and Rekindler on 7. And as soon as Rekindler was a playable card, which obviously, of course, it is, you're like, oh, when I can Rekindler on curve instead of trying to play Anivia on 7 and then kill it and then Rekindler on 8, I'm still playing off curve. Like, that was definitely a really, really big deal, and that was something that, honestly, was a pretty obvious combo that people discovered really quickly, and I didn't really see coming as quickly as other people did. So yeah, turns out 6 cost Anivia worked out pretty well. In most cases, if you can deal 1, you can deal 2, but Withering Wail and Vile Fuse and things like that obviously don't always work. Level 2 Braum, curiously enough, is going to line up here. This nerf is pretty small. Honestly, this probably doesn't hurt the viability of Anivia decks very much. I know a lot of times Anivia was running with Braum as well. Well, here we are. This is a big change. Relentless Pursuit is now slow. Wow. Yeah, I mean, this is a really big deal, right? Because that meant if your opponent attacked you and you had good blocks lined up, you could be like, and Pursuit. And your opponent's like, well, I'm getting open attack now. I guess I lose the game. It also meant that you could attack, your opponent declares blockers, and you're like, and Pursuit, which means you get one option, you get one play, and then we're going again. It now means that when your opponent attacks you, you spend your entire turn to say, and Pursuit, and they get a full turn to react. Or if you do it after your combat, you attacked, they did a thing, you said, by the way, Pursuit, they get to go again. I mean, this gives a full extra round of play to your opponent to do things about Pursuit. That is definitely a big deal. I will say it's interesting because so the way this actually puts Pursuit now is in a spot where it's only good if you're overwhelming your opponent, right? Because before you would play Pursuit and you would give your opponent only one action or sometimes 0 actions and say, all right, we're back at it. Let's go. That's no longer the case here, which is an interesting kind of change, right? This now says, hey, I'm going to spend 3 mana and a card. You're going to get enough time to react to me in most cases that, like, if you have cards in hand and playable mana, you will be in a good enough spot that you're ready to go. Unless I have completely overwhelmed you, in which case, get wrecked, right? Now, there is never a chance to Pursuit without Ruination being possible or Harrowing being possible, because if you ever attack me, I play Pursuit during combat, and now you never can play a slow spell. That possibility is gone. That is meaningful. Any given slow spell now can always react to Pursuit. Big deal. This also has the interesting impact of kind of pocket buffing Lucian. Yes, his spell is worth, but Lucian's effect is now better. And buffing Katarina and buffing Shunpo, which is the deal 2 damage rally Noxus spell, which is also slow. Now suddenly, Pursuit and Shunpo are much more comparable, right? They're both slow speed rallies, and one you're paying 2 mana for 2 damage, which maybe. Finally, they buffed the weakest card in the game, Arena Bookie. Instead of being a 3 mana 2/1, he is a 2 mana 2/2. That is obviously an absurdly large buff. 2 mana 2/2 is reasonable. And this is sort of a lot of their now new buffs to discard archetypes. We're going to skip over one and then go to more of them. Well, I mean, there's going to be ones not about discard, and then we're going to see more of them. But a 2 mana 2/2 with I churn your hand as my benefit. Now, I want to point out, this is not Toss, right? This is not level up Maokai, but it does level up TF because you are drawing a card. And what's interesting is this lines up, right? A 2 mana 2/2 is an okay card. If it survives the first round, you are getting some value here because you're almost always upgrading in value, right? You are probably not playing this on round 1 or round 2. Well, I mean, you're not playing it around 1, but you're not playing it around 2, 3, or 4. You're probably playing it around 6 or 7, where, you know, you probably have a slightly cheap deck archetype, right? You're probably playing stuff where you're kind of capping out at 5 cost or so, right? It's like, well, if I can just discard my 1-drops and get something else instead, you know, let me go discard my 1-drop and find Jinx. Here's the big one. Let me discard Puff Caps and draw 1, right? Like, this is a really big thing. Like, this is the Rummage synergy where you're like, look, I put a bunch of random crap in my hand that I don't really want, but if I can get rid of it and turn it into a real card, I'm going up in value. Like, suddenly, Arena Bookie wants to play with, you know, Clump of Wumps. You play both cards, you then go discard your Puff Caps to get a real card in your hand. Then you play a Chump Wump, and you've got the next 2 coming in. And now you're drawing 2 cards a turn. That's great. That's so good, right? Like, and the fact that this is not a dog card anymore, it's a 2 mana 2/2, means, look, if this happens exactly once and then trades out, this is a very good card. If, like, imagine you have a 2/2, a 2 mana 2/2 that says, when I'm played, discard a Puff Cap and draw a card. That card is amazing. That card is great. That card is really, 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 really good. So this is cool. This is super, super cool. Is there going to be a core Twisted Fate or Puff Cap archetype that gets here? I don't know. Could it be? Yeah. This is great. I love this. Basilisk Rider is now a 4/3 that becomes a 5/4. Hey, we've got more, you know, 4 mana 4/3s, right? Like, we found a decent stat profile where it becomes a 4 mana 5/4 overwhelm. Now, what's kind of amazing to me, right, is like 5/4 overwhelm for 4 is not absurd. It's obviously good, right? It is a good stat profile, 5/4 for 4, and it has a keyword which is usually worth a stat point as well, which is overwhelm, which is why Basilisk Rider is good. Just like I thought the Ballista was good as a 4/3 overwhelm for 4. For the same reason that Basilisk Rider is good, that card is also good because it is going to trade equally with other cards and hit face. Now, this will only probably hit face for 1 or 2, as opposed to hitting for 3, but that's okay. Also, it's still a 4-drop with 4 health when it gets Legions, obviously, which, yeah, pretty responsibly is going to trade with a card, and sometimes will get to go 2 for 1, and that's a really big deal, obviously. Yeah, the card got a little bit overtuned. I mean, this thing being like, what was it, like a 4/2 or something, was like pretty stupid. So, yeah, I'm glad we're where we are now. This is the stat line that made me feel comfortable with it, and here we are. The Allegiance benefit is that you are basically an extra stat point above what's fair, which, yeah, that's about where Allegiance lines up, right? Bannerman is, you know, 1 stat point down natively, which, hey, by the way, Basilisk is actually 2 stat points down natively. But Bannerman gives, you know, if you give 2 buffs out, it's a good card, which is, yeah, about the power level here. Crimson Disciple now only deals 1 to Nexus, and this is something that I think is actually probably a positive thing for the game overall. Honestly, a lot of it is that the damage is at burst speed. Like, you just lose to transfusioning this, and you just get 2 to face. Obviously, it's part of the, we've seen it for 8 patches in a row, Noxus face decks, sometimes with Harrowing, sometimes with Piltover, sometimes with, you know, other stuff. But yeah, Crimson Disciple tends to work really, really well here. Now, if you give her Transfusion to make her a 4/5 and she, kills your 3/3, it's only 1 to face, and that's going to add up. It's a minor thing. This is still a 2-mana 2/3 with upside. That is still a good Transfusion. Like, steal her blood, put it somewhere else. That's still going to work. Also, I would say, like, if you ever do play a Vladimir deck, the 1 more to face is not as meaningful as everything else in the blood, the Scars archetype. So, happy with the change, and yeah, this kind of needed to happen. Legion Grenadier is now a 2-mana 3/2, so very good stat profile, but only 1 to Nexus. And honestly, I am happy to see that the kind of combat list damage is going down, right? Health totals are very low in LOR, and I do not think Riot should ever buff the health totals. That has huge knock-on effects that I don't want to see happen. But Noxus does have a lot of free damage, where Crimson Disciple will probably always at least deal, and Legion Grenadier will virtually always deal damage. But that only being 1, and this only being 1 says, look, this is still statted well, and this is still statted. Now, I will say this is statted better, right? If you're playing Noxus Face, you would rather have a 3/2 than a 2/3. This is, I would argue, as reliable as this is. Ultimately, again, happy with the changes. This was undodgeable damage in realistic situations, and I'm glad to see it go down. So here's the change that I was talking to earlier about Heimerdinger, which is Flash of Brilliance is now 4 cost, which means now you cannot Heimerdinger on 5, Flash, and then, Twin Disciplines, and just be incredible and win the game outright. So this now costs 1 real mana, because you can only refill 3 spell mana, but it costs 4. This makes Overwhelms instead of Elusives, and it means you can only play this on round 6 with Heimerdinger, never on round 5 with Heimerdinger, which is probably fine. Yeah, I mean, this along with the Heimer changes, really, really, really big nerf to Heimer. I actually wonder if they could have done only one of these. Would Heimer have been not tier 1? And honestly, maybe not, right? Heimer is probably still tier 1 after only one of these 2 changes, so I don't hate it. Heimer will still be pretty solid, though. This is still a solid card. It also means that for things like Lux, you can Flash of Brilliance plus Mystic Shot, and that levels Lux right away. So there's occasionally cases where, like, this is actually a better card, but overall, this definitely is a nerf. Overall, Heimer is a nerf. Both cards still feel playable. All right, so Sump Dredger is now 3 mana instead of 2 mana. So instead of being a 2 mana 4/3 with downside, it is a 3 mana 4/3, which is a good thing, right? A 3 mana 4/3 is a good stat profile. There's not a lot of those out there, but 3 mana 4/3 fights the board. I mean, it will guarantee you trade something out, right? It will kill a thing. And now to play me discard and draw. And I do really like, this is where the archetype's going. A lot of it's because Sump Dredger was unplayable, but I kind of like the idea that the discard deck is actually a card churn deck. We know that Bilgewater has a lot of this, right? With like pick a card and what's it called? Like Pool Shark and stuff. Direct synergy here, by the way. I mean, Vi wants this, TF wants this. Arena Bookie is outside these regions, but like another kind of card that looks like this. It says, hey, I played Pool Shark on 2, and you know what? I can't play that card. Like, I'm gonna lose my Vi anyway. You might as well discard it with Sump Dredger, right? So I Pool Sharked on, 2, which wasn't a great play, but whatever. So I got to draw a free card, which I just, toss away with Sump Dredger anyway. And that draws me a free card that I get to keep. So now all of your, fleeting card draws become real card draws. They're turned into permanent cards off of a card that is already stat efficient. Like, I'm not sure that, massive card draw deck is going to be good, but I want to point out this is the archetype that has Submersible, and the archetype, or the region, I should say, that has Pursuit of Perfection. These are the kind of cards you want to see in that, where you can play a remotely consistent deck where you're playing mostly 2-ofs, and then when you get a duplicate, you're just like, toss and draw a new one, it's fine. Because you will get through your deck. You will find Pursuit of Perfection. You will find the champion you're looking for. You will find Submersible. You're going to find things. Like, what's cool about discard draw decks is they are consistent, right? The more of your deck you see, the more consistent your decks become. And that's going to be the unspoken real benefit of these decks, is if these cards are efficient enough, and a 3 mana 4/3 is, and a 1 mana 2/1's fine, and things like that, you're going to find your best cards in the matchup. And that part's really, really cool. And in fact, allows you to play a bit more of a spread out deck where you're playing more 2-ofs and not all 3-ofs, because, well, look, there's going to be matchups where Avalanche is a bad card, matchups where Avalanche is a good card. Okay, well, I can just discard Avalanche when it's a bad card and just get something else anyway. And it's just a new card regardless. It's going to go find me Elixir of Iron or whatever. Like, that's going to exist, and that's going to be cool. It gives you permission to play a bit more of an inefficient deck because you're going to get there anyway. Now, you may still just play an efficient deck, and that's fine. But a 3-mana 4/3 that lets you get rid of your least important card and find a new one is awesome. It gets you one step closer to the best card in your deck, and it gets rid of the worst card that you don't need, which is either already fleeting or just not good in the matchup. Love this. Same for Zane Urchin. She's remaining a 1-mana 2/1, which is a mediocre stat line, but it's acceptable for a 1-drop. And again, the upside is, yep, my mulligan was sucky. I have 2 Darius, which I'm never going to use. Let's get rid of one and find a new one because I need a 2-drop. Like, that's cool. Is it 2 in a great stat line? Not really, but it's got a really, really good play effect. So this is a pretty solid card. The one thing I will say is if you get lucky off of generating this card out of the 1-drop generator, it's weaker, right? If you're going to play, like Allegiance Ionia to dig 1-drops out of your deck, Zane Urchin is a great 1-drop to dig, or was, because her last breath was draw a card. Or if you could yoink this out of your hand with like return and retreat return, you could yoink this out of your hand and then get card draw out of it without having to play the pay cost. So okay, there's a little bit there, right? But end of the day, this is cool. It basically just moves up the draw one to at play instead of at it dying, which sometimes took a long time, and you're just stuck with a lower hand size for a while. And if you happen to get silenced or captured or obliterated, which is really, really rare, but it could happen, it sucks to suck, I guess. So this just happens right away. You play your 1-drop, it cycles, you find something else. Still costs you a card to play it. Still not a great card, to be completely fair, but if you're trying to play discard and draw, like if you're discarding a Scrap Scuttler, or if you're discarding, Jury Rig, but you're getting a Scrap Scuttler, if you're discarding Flame Chompers, if you're discarding Might, these are the cards that you just want to objectively discard and feel good about. Might with Sump Treasure feels amazing. The best card in the game is finally getting nerfed. Shadow Assassin is now a 1/2. I wouldn't have minded seeing a 2/1 here. I think it becoming a 1/2 is actually arguably too big of a nerf. That's up for debate, to be fair, but like this feels pretty bad. This card feels, I don't want to say unplayable, but like it can't kill level 2 Teemo. Sure, it's still fine against Greenglade Duo and Greenglade Lookout. No, Greenglade Lookout is the one that makes you lower cost. The one that's 2/1 elusive for 1 round. It kills Omen Hawk, but like there's so many 2 health units this card is dead against. Maybe elusives were just too good and they needed to nerf one of their offensive tools in Shadow Assassin. Like, I trust their judgment that this needs to be a 1/2 and not a 2/1. A 2/1 would definitely be stronger than a 1/2. But yes, Shadow Assassin is a near auto-include across pretty much every Ionia deck. Yes, absolutely the case. Card advantage, defense, you steal games elusive attack, like all those things are true. Yep, absolutely. And look, just because she would die to Static Shock doesn't mean that she wouldn't still be OP. So yes, I accept why this is too good. Why it needs to be a 1/2. But this is a really big power hit. It probably needed to happen, and here we are. Steel Tempest, it gets buffed to being 2 cost. This card was dog poop. This card was so bad. Yay! And wow, is that nice though? Like Ionia Control gets 2 mana stop and attack. I mean, this is a really big deal. Like this is a big buff because this is now a playable card. Like to be clear, this is a playable card. It's obviously buffed to Yasuo, duh. But like Will of Ionia is pay 4 to make them lose the tempo as well. Only having to pay 2, that is really inexpensive. That is really, really, really inexpensive. It is not hard to have 2 mana up. This is playable. Like, this card was bad. This card is playable. You can buy yourself a lot of time off the fact that Steel Tempest only costs 2 mana. River Shaper can live. It's a 3 mana 2/2 draw card, essentially. The fact that it can actually fight an Omen Hawk and live is kind of nice. Yeah, I kind of like this. Yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot of Ionia is getting nerfed. We love Ionia, by the way. Also getting nerfed. Ionia's getting hit really hard. I'm always happy that they're saying, like, okay, look, we're going to nerf these 3 Ionia spells because they're too good. Here's 3 weak Ionia cards to buff. Ultimately, are Yasuo decks going to be as good as Heimer decks because they're running Ionia? No, they're not. Like they're not getting a new tier 1 deck. but this tier 1 deck's becoming tier 2, and this tier 4 deck's becoming tier 3. That's still healthy for the game, right? Like, I'm a fan of that. And as soon as there are no tier 1 decks anymore, tier 2 is tier 1, and tier 3 is tier 2. Like, people will debate whether that's really true or not. I think that's actually a real discussion that one can have. I don't necessarily think that's definitely true, but the idea, I think, still holds up, that some deck has to be the best deck in the game, and if it's not Vimer anymore, it's something, and that means all ships rise. The tide rises all, the rising tide lifts all boats. That's the phrase. The rising tide lifts all boats, because Heimer has been sunk into the water, and so the water level is rising. We got there. Good reference. Yeah, I actually personally, as a player, love River Shaper. I'm a huge fan of this card. I love playing this card because it just feels so good. Like, a 2/1 was like almost good enough to fight a unit and kill it, and then it just replaces itself anyway. It was really satisfying to play. Is a 2/2 great? Not really, but the fact that it can draw objectively draw a card is, yeah, worth more than 1 mana. Compare this card to like old Shadow Assassin. 3 mana 2/2 is elusive, automatically draws. 3 mana 2/2 isn't elusive, maybe draws at most once. Now, if you're playing a barrier deck, bam, right? This thing doesn't die to Static Shock anymore. You have to give a full Mystic Shot. It's not getting Vile Feast. It's not getting Withering Wailed. So now you can play River Shaper in a Shen deck. Let's play some Let's play some Shen Yasuo. Let's go and play all the new cool stuff that got buffed recently and play some Shen Yasuo and buff River Shaper with barrier and like go ham. That sounds fun. Drag out some 1-drops in Ionia and go ham. Maybe we play some Omen Hawks. Just to splash. Who knows? But I like this card a lot. Barrier obviously is a synergy with this, so you can keep drawing cards. It's probably Demacia, to be fair, but Will of Ionia costs 5. Oh, yeah, this card was absurd. Because keep in mind, you can only attack once per other round. So when you attack with your Tryndamere and you get Will of Ionia, Tryndamere can't attack again until round 10. Get wrecked, nerd. And then you just, you steal Tempest the guy, and now he's not attacking until 12. Real strong stuff. Golden Narwhal is attempting to be buffed. So instead of being a 3 mana 2/4, it is a 2 mana 2/3. So, right, this cost 1 more, and this was 1 higher. That was the easy way to say it. So a 2 mana 2/3 elusive is a good stat line. Is it going to die to a 3-drop? Yes, it is. Was it always going to die to a 4-drop? Absolutely. But playing it on 2, right? Like, if your opponent plays a 2-drop and it's a 2/3, and you play Golden Narwhal, it's like, well, you can challenge my Narwhal, I guess, and put it at 2/1, but I still stopped your attack, and then I hit you with elusive for 2 damage, and I got what I wanted. Narwhal coming down on 3, 2/4 is just a pretty bad stat line. I will also say that this is, I would say, generally speaking, a buff to Hunting Fleet. Would you ever include Golden Narwhal on your own? Still no, probably. You probably still don't include this on your own. I don't think you ever really care. Unless you have so much control with challenge that you can get rid of things, I don't think you care about this. There's like almost no way you care. But what I will say is this buffs Hunting Fleet, because when you play Hunting Fleet on 5, a 3/3 kills this. Because you didn't care what the mana cost for this thing was. Hunting Fleet just makes a weaker card. Right? Hunting Fleet is objectively stronger because the thing it makes for your opponent is a weaker card. Like, that's not even up for debate. That's always true. Is Golden Narwhal also a stronger card to main deck? Very, very slightly, but it's still a bad card. So, cool. Hunting Fleet wasn't very good either, so we're in there. Oh, and Hunting Fleet, by the way, gets to be a 6/6 instead of a 7/7 because it only costs 4. Which, again, right, you play this on 4, your 3-drop can kill the Narwhal, and you can attack, right? If you curve out on 3 and play Hunting Fleet on 4, that's going to work. Like, I actually think this is good. Like, I actually think Hunting Fleet is a playable, constructed card now. Because you can just take Misfortune and, go challenge this Narwhal. And Hunting Fleet is a 6/6 that can't be opposed by anything. Like, there aren't good defensive tools on 4. They don't really exist. Like, this is gonna be in there. This legitimately seems great. This feels constructed playable. I'm excited about Hunting Fleet. Personalization. Got a bunch of stuff going. Epic tier board, the Festival Shrine, with tappable interactive elements. All right, so we finally got that in there. I know of other card games that have tappable interactive elements in their boards. Good idea, right? But still, yeah. Good. That's fun. This is cool. It's exciting. I'm glad they're doing more. Good stuff. Good job. Cool beans. More deck bundles. I actually think deck bundles are really cool. So when I was a kid, I played a lot of Magic the Gathering. And I mean, I played and I spent a lot of my parents' money on buying cards. I really enjoyed buying pre-made decks. They had theming to them. I could play them out of the box. I didn't know what I was doing, so it was going to be better than whatever the heck I made. I was the kind of player who couldn't get myself to make my cards only 40 decks big. Like, it would be 73 cards because I couldn't bear to cut more cards. I was objectively bad at Magic. And so, hey, here you go. You're in there. I'm a fan. I'm ready to play Plunder deck. Cool. Like, I think this is a cool thing. I want to see more of it. I think it's really nice. Gangplank Sejuani, Plunder keyword, midrange beatdown. Midrange beatdown is my favorite, like, deck archetype in card games. This is what I like to play. It is my favorite kind of play. I have not personally found Gangplank Sedge to synergize that well together. I'm curious to see what is in this, but it should be fun. And then finally, we have Expedition archetype updates. Ancient Yeti has gone from Scars. It's too bad I really like Ancient Yeti. But later updates for here, mostly around the patch balance changes, but with a minor theme of reducing Freljord's access to Overwhelm, as Freljord is overforming, which is fair. Enlightenment gets River Shaper added, gets nerfed, Shadow Assassin gone, Zephyr Sage gone. River Shaper is a decent card now. Elixir of Iron, Tavern Keeper out. Yeah, Frozen Solid no longer has ramp. Stalking Wolf, unlucky, I like that card. Grenadier in for a House Spider, sure. Warning Shot in for Wild Claw. Ah, right. So yes, they are indeed getting rid of Overwhelm, and they're adding Plunder synergy, but Warning Shot is a weak card. Right, again, the goals that I think it sees Freljord is probably trying to nerf it. New Legion Grenadier actually seems pretty solid, though. 3 out of 3 with upside seems good. Also, by the way, I got to point out, Legion Grenadier, really, really good card in Plunder decks. Because you don't want to not block the 3-2, but it's still going to trigger Plunder for you. Great card. And it's not easily killed, so it's not a 2-drop that just dies to Vile Feast and they get a spider out of it. So, positive. All right, Scrap Heap loses a weak card, an okay card. A card, okay, loses this combo. Yeah, so Scrap Heap is no longer Noxus Piltover aggro, basically. And these cards were mediocre. And gets newly buffed Arena Bookie, which is in discard synergy. Clump of Wumps, discard synergy. Flame Chompers, discard synergy, right? Scrap Heap is back to playing discard again. It's interesting that it was gone because they basically said, yep, Scrap Heap is crap. Let's just play Noxus Piltover aggro. Now it's back with the newly buffed cards. Cool beans. It's obviously the Noxus version, not the Bilgewater version with like the TF stuff. But I think that is arguably in constructed the better version of Scrap Heap is probably that side of it and not the Noxus side of it. But we'll see. Obviously, Noxus has Vision and Arena Bookie and things like that. So and Spinning Axes, like it has its other discard synergy. But the new Piltover version seems to be discard and replace, which is a different look, right? This is also discard and replace. So we'll see how it goes. Shadow Assassin, of course, a weaker card. Shadows of Dust loses it. Spell Slingers, which is all about cheap spells, and I think it's like Ionia, or it's Ionia, but it's Lee Sin and stuff. So it gets Big Joe Protector, gets River Shaper, gets Spirit's Refuge to keep things like River Shaper alive. This feels like Yasuo Shen synergy, by the way. Loses Insight, which is a weak card. Shadow Assassin is now a weak card. Loses newly nerfed Will of Ionia, but it's just gone overall. Hearthguard and Scarmaiden and Reaver are gone from suit up. Okay, yeah. So, yep, a lot of the really big. I mean, this is a very efficient card. 3-1 tough. Overwhelm is very good. Hearthguard's obviously an incredible card overall. Shaman the Waters added to Terrorist from the Deep, which is the create long tooth, the 5/2 Overwhelm, gives them vulnerable. It's kind of nice. Actually, I don't mind spells that summon units in Deep because the mana is often so awkward. It can be hard to curve out well, and so having like a 3-ish mana spell to summon a unit is pretty reasonable. Maybe it's like 4. I forget exactly. Sway now levels up from Overwhelm Final Spark. That's good. Dragon's Rage now works with Teemo. Good stuff. Stirred Spirit expiring. That's good. Yay. Good. I'm really glad about this. This is great. Yep, this was an oversight where it didn't say end of round. That shouldn't have been over end of round. So if you use Stirred Spirits and then Deathmark the Ephemeral off, you keep the 2-0, which is great. I love that. Keep it going. Oops. Yeah. And so otherwise just like some bug fixes that are otherwise fine. So cool. Cool beans. I love it. This is really exciting. I like this patch a lot. Obviously, nerfs the top end quite a bit. Darrowing gets weaker, Heimer Vi gets weaker, and we got new stuff in its stead. Should be fun to watch for. So, cool patch. I'm really excited about the new season coming up very, very soon. I'm going to have a lot of fun with that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.